tonight, and I think that Jack would snicker a little bit at my being uncomfortable, because he would do a heck of a lot better job for me than I would do for him. I'll do the best I can. I personally want to thank you all and extend Phyllis's and Allison's thanks for you showing up as well. I think Jack would be delighted and amused to see so many people here, and I'm certainly pleased. There's an impressive body of work over here that Jack has laid out, or has been laid out as a memory table in honor of Jack. And if you have a few minutes to take a look at it, I think it's well worth your while. As well, there's going to be an ongoing slideshow behind me here, and we will go on for the event. And there's an awful lot of wonderful pictures and images there. Today's celebrations will start with the presentation of Jack's bio by Phyllis Brock, and it will then be followed by I'll have a little bit of a speech, and we'll open up the microphone to everybody who is interested and wants to make a comment. We'll follow off then with a toast by Mr. Steve Cotton, who's a friend of Jack's as well. And I hope that everybody would enjoys himself as much as Jack would enjoy having you here. So with that, I'd like to introduce Phyllis Brock.
I just want to thank you all, friends of Jack, for showing up. And this is wonderful. I've been so supported by your love for the past few days, and I want to thank you so much for that. So thank you for showing up. And you know, this is just Jack's, welcome to Jack's world. So I've spent a little while in a bio last night, and I just got to find it in my cell phone. Jack was born in Pikeville, Tennessee, and came to California with his parents when he was 3 years old. He attended Foothill Country Day School and Claremont High School, and then Cal Poly San Dimas. He was married to Phyllis Shockley in 1965. He worked for General Telephone, Southern California, briefly as a lineman. Then went on to hold sales and marketing positions there. In 1968, he and Phyllis moved to Santa Monica, where he held a sales manager position. There he created films, beautiful films, very creative, for sales and marketing training, and he held very popular and successful classes for the telephone company at the historic Santa Ynez Inn. He also worked with the Veterans Administration in Westwood, California, for their first computer-run systems for the VA. In 1971, he and Phyllis moved to Tampa, Florida, where he opened and ran a new telecommunications center for General Telephone of Florida. While working for GTF, he was hired by a Canadian company for management of their new company in Edmonton, Control Devices, a company that developed and sold energy management devices. Jack and Phyllis started a new adventure by immigrating to Alberta, Canada, where he ran Control Devices, a very creative, small, very creative company with wonderful engineers and designers. Phyllis and Jack, it's not about me. They then bought a house on 80 acres outside Bruderheim, Alberta, which was it's about an hour from Edmonton, but it was a beautiful spot. And they lived there, and Jack enjoyed fishing, hunting, and riding their 3 horses. After a few years, Jack went with SED Systems in Saskatoon as their marketing VP. He and Phyllis lived on a small ranch west of Saskatoon. Jack's love of the sea pulled him back to his beloved Pacific. He and Phyllis moved to southern BC, where he worked briefly for Siemens. Also, Jack's love of fishing and hunting brought he and Phyllis to the beautiful lake and mountain area above Princeton, BC, where they built a rustic country house. Very rustic. Jack eventually became a very successful wood carver. He loved it, and they were mostly fish. He's always loved fish and studied them. And he had many, many happy people he made happy by making these fish for them. You could still see his fish on Collector's Covey from Dallas. Collector's Covey, you can Google that. About 9 years ago, Jack discovered Melaque, Mexico. It was love at first sight. He came back every winter, loving the life here, taking many pictures and videos of the people and familiar scenes of the area and the sweet, simple life here. Last year, he started the process of becoming a permanent resident and Mexican citizen. Jack was very lucky. His landlord in Melaque, Jerry KOSONOY, also had a deep-sea fishing charter boat. Jerry became his fishing buddy, and they would go out on Jerry's boat at least once a month. Across the street from Jack's apartment was Scooby's, a very popular dining spot in Melaque, as you all know. Not only could he get an excellent gourmet meal here, he would meet many friends there for good talk and spirits. Jack's best friend was also Octavio Cruz, alias Scooby. Many hours were spent in conversation there with Scooby, talking good food, how to prepare it, and their shared cultures of Mexico and Southern California. Jack also became very interested in tango. He didn't do anything halfway. And so after a few lessons, it became a passion. He was a very accomplished beginner and was looking forward to continuing lessons in the summer with his tango partner, Luis Lambio. I think I said that wrong, Luis. Sorry. Anyway, Luis, and they just danced beautifully together, and we're looking forward to continuing lessons in the summer. So Jack practiced Tai Chi on his apartment rooftop every afternoon, and 3 to 4 times a week he bicycled the back roads around Jalisco and the Free Highway. Jack's love of fish and fishing began early. As a boy in Southern California, he used to go out on deep-sea fishing boats all by himself. He was around 10 when he started doing that, so he loved it. And many times he'd bring home a big fish and barbecue it for his entire family, his aunts and uncles and cousins. And he do the whole dinner, and he always loved cooking. Jack's love of good food and cooking, it started early. His mother was an accomplished Southern cook, and he took it from there. While living in the Lake District north of Tampa, Florida, we were living there on a lake, and Jack met and became best friends, and his fishing buddy was Doug Hannon, the bass professor. And if you Google him, there's a lot there. He learned everything Doug knew about largemouth bass and bass fishing, and that was a lot. Doug passed just a few years ago. I'd like to think that Jack and Doug are somewhere talking about fishing. Jack was an only child, and his parents are deceased. He leaves his widow, Phyllis. So thank you very much for your love and support.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'll beg your indulgence as I refer to my notes again here. I'm finding the situation a little emotional, and I'd like to make sure that I deliver my thoughts as rationally as I'm able to do. I cannot claim to know Jack a long time. And I initially met him in cyberspace, the cyberspace of social media, that almost other world, fourth dimension, that didn't really even exist well for most of our adult lives. One of the values of the internet and social media is the ability to meet and connect with people of like interests. Jack's passion for Melaque and for Bara, his taste in food, his love of music, his support of crafts and local businesses made our acquaintance virtually inevitable. Jack was a big man in many ways, a larger-than-life character. He was the type of character that all places need if they're worth an ink spot on a map. A physically big man with a huge toothy grin that showed confidence and conviction and sense of purpose. He did pretty much everything he did to the max. I'll leave it to others to describe Jack's many talents, other than to say his interests were eclectic and his contributions were significant. In my view, he was honest, compassionate, determined, charming, intelligent, provocative, artistic, and Jack was opinionated. He was well-read, well-informed, intelligent, firm in his convictions, and even a little bit stubborn. I remember posting on Facebook a beautiful picture of a bubbling Mogahete, and describing and praising its visual appeal, its sound, its aroma, and the taste of this wonderful Mexican dish. Jack chided me, saying, "You know, Michael, a Mogahete is not Mexican food." You know, that surprised me. So I did a bit of research and discovered that the Mogahete is actually the name of the pumice bowl. That three-legged Mexican mortar that a stew mix is served in. And as most of you will know, the stew mixture is served after it's been superheated in an oven. I explained my discovery to Jack and added that I thought that I could call any Mexican meat, vegetable, and queso dish prepared by Mexicans and served in a traditional Mexican bowl, Mexican food, you know. I granted that the food might not be traditional, but it was Mexican. His response was no response. No anger, no reproach, no granting my point. So he was a character. He allowed me carte blanche with his amazing photographs and to use them as I would, and I was honored by his trust. I had respect for him to the point that I felt validated when he shared one of my posts. Mutual respect is a keystone for an honest friendship, and we had that. I have a motto or a mantra that I try to follow, and that is live every day like it's a Saturday night. That doesn't mean partying until there's no tomorrow. It simply means live like there's no tomorrow. Jack was a poster child for that ideal. Melaque and Bara will live on, and they'll progress. We have other legendary characters, and there will be more. But that parade will always be led, in my imagination, by Jack Brock, pedaling that big-ass bicycle of his, blasting his music with a flag waving. I'll say to Jack, sleep, mi amigo, I'll miss you, and many others will, so rest well. And I'd like to open the mic at this stage to anybody else who would like to speak.
So, I got this beautiful email from our very good friend from Japan that actually, Tio and Kyoko, she's now back in Japan, and Takeo is kind of winding up things. He lives in Summerland. He has a house in Summerland, and he's maybe going to be going back to Japan after this next year. And Tio and Kyoko are just best friends ever. We enjoyed so many beautiful gourmet meals together that Kyoko is just the most wonderful Japanese cook and nutritionist, and we just really enjoy them, and I'd like to read this. Dear Phyllis, we are so sorry about Jack. I could not send you email immediately last night because I was shocked to hear about Jack's passing away, and I could not find any words to say. My last conversation with Jack was that he made his mind to move to Mexico permanently, and he came back to Osprey Lake in May for leaving Canada, and we promised to see in May. I was looking forward to seeing Jack. Last night I called Kyoko soon after I got your mail. She was surprised and sad so much. We were talking about a lot of great memories with both of you. Of course, you are our old and best friends in Canada. Jack was a great man. I always sympathized with his way of life. I think Jack was walking to the road of life ahead of me. I enjoyed his photos from Mexico that were our conversation without talking. Jack was with you and had a great time the last time of his life. This is miracle and God's present to both of you, I believe. May his soul rest in peace, and our thoughts and prayers with you, Takeo and Kyoko. So I think Tio you just really, this was so beautiful. I'm sorry, I just had to read it. It's like a poem to me. Thank you very much.
Got to look at my phone a little bit because this is pretty emotional for me. We were fortunate enough to meet Jack 3 or 4 years ago, and I remember that huge grin on the airplane from Calgary. Of course, there were at least 3 things in Jack's life that were amazingly special to him: martinis, food, and women. And of course, who does he sit beside? My lovely wife Anita. And so they became involved in a conversation on the plane, and eventually, after a few hours, I got a word in, and it's been a wonderful relationship ever since that we've had with him. We just clicked. It's funny in life how you click with some people, and Jack was one of those guys that we clicked with, and every time we'd come down here, you know, it's interesting the stories that we hear. We hear about the bicycle, but you see, we didn't see that side of the bicycle with Jack because we weren't here as long. We were kind of coming and going. But when we got here, it was martinis at 7, dinner at 8, and by gosh, don't be late, because we had one situation where Jack did his special dish. It was fish Veracruz, and of course we were meeting Jack and Alice at that time, and it was 8 o'clock, and we were late because my lovely wife wanted to pick up desserts and some other things. And I remember when we got to the door, he was so concerned about us. He said, "You know, I was worried about you folks. What happened to you?" And took the desserts, put them to the side, and he said, "When you come to my house, everything's on me." And that was Jack. That described him to a T. The little sign over there, Jack's World, tells a lot about Jack, because this now is Jack's world. We're in Jack's world. And so I think we're all pretty fortunate to be there. It's interesting, you know, I reach into my pocket, and almost every pocket that I have now has some of this stuff in it. Sea glass. And I see all these people now at the beach. They don't look at the view, they look for sea glass. And we're kind of that type of person now. We're looking for sea glass all the time. But it's just one of the many things that Jack brought to all of us. And it wasn't limited to little things like that. I mean, we had an interesting experience with Jack one time. We went out for supper with Jack to Gigi's for Thanksgiving, and I wasn't really familiar with the Pope's nose at that time, but I became pretty familiar with the Pope's nose after Gigi's, because Jack was served, I think, 8 of them on one plate, and so anyway, I looked across and I said, "Geez, I've never tried that before. What's a Pope's nose?" And he said, "Well, you're not going to try mine." And I said, well, why? He says, because I'm an only child and I don't share very well. But that was the farthest thing from the truth about Jack. Take a look around at Melaque. Take a look at Octavia. Take a look at Jerry. Take a look at Ronaldo. All the sharing that he did of his time. Look at Robert, the Hansons. I mean, he shared so much of himself with so many people. Man, were we privileged to know this guy. Okay? Anyway, thank you very much.
Invite anybody else to come up and speak.
Oh, just fantastic looking out here at all his special friends and so many wishes from friends that aren't here. Thank you so much for coming. I can't add much to what Phyllis has said and Michael has said. He was one of a kind. We had a great time together. He was a challenge, I will say that. One of the first things he said to me was, I love passionately and I hate passionately. And that was so true. Everything he did was with a passion. He lived with a passion. His sculptures that you've seen up here was done with a passion. His photography, his tango lessons, everything, all out, 100%. His cooking, as a matter of fact, I was soon demoted to dishwashing. I was not allowed to touch any food. And I had a fairly good reputation as a cook, so I didn't have a chance to show him. Anyway, one of the highlights of our time together was last year when we took a month's holiday through southern Mexico and the interior. It was like I had my own personal guide. He was fantastic. Every region we went to, he knew the history, he knew the culture, he knew the art. There was nothing left that we could ask anyone there. He knew it all. But most of all, he knew the food. That was Jack. So there isn't much I can add to what everyone has said. Thank you for coming out. Thank you to his wonderful friends, Octavio and Jerry. They've been a pillar of strength for Phyllis especially and myself. Thank you, everyone.
Jack was a great guy. I'm sure he's thankful that everyone came here. Rosie and I are blessed that we've called him our friend. We're truly going to miss him. Probably just share a few stories. I've had a little sore throat, so bear with me here. I guess I'm going to start with Alice and Phyllis. I've got a few photos here. The one that I did, the little photo montage of Jack for you guys. You can come up in a minute and I'll give you a hug and you can grab it. Let me show everybody. I put it on Facebook. I'll show you. Incidentally, we're the ones that, we have the gallery and restaurant in Barra. I'm Robert, my wife's Rosie, and we're the ones that print everything for Jack. And we've got a wonderful working relationship over the last 2 years, and a lot of good time spent with him. He used to ride his bicycle over, and we'd chat during the mornings, and he'd talk about his photography. And anyway, what a great guy. I do have a couple little stories. I'll share one about this. So I did this little photo montage of Jack. I took these photos of him about a month and a half ago. What happened is I've been doing portraits of different people, and I thought, okay, Jack came by one morning. I said, I want to do a portrait of you. So let's take a few photos. So we stood in our yard, and then he stood there and he says, so what do I do? And I just said, Jack, just be yourself. So I call it the many faces of Jack. So he did just about everything you can think of. So it's kind of interesting. Maybe maybe Alice and Phyllis can put one on the table and you can look through it a little later. So, yeah, what a wonderful guy. So, I'll share one story that gives you a sense of what his humorous character is. And that was, start of this year, I had trouble with my Google email. So I was having a heck of a time trying to send out our email list and things. So, so I called Jack up and I said, I'm going to send you some emails and we can, maybe we can do some tests because I'm having problems, things bouncing back to me and that. So I sent him an email and then I get an email back from Jack saying, sorry, I didn't get the email. So that's the way Jack was. So anyway, have a good time. This is a celebration for Jack. I know we all love him. We'll all miss him. And enjoy it today. Bye-bye. Phyllis, Alice, you want to come up?
Forgot to thank Robert here for all the work he did in putting this together, this slideshow and all the extra work. And thank you for this. This is fantastic. Thank you, Michael, for being MC, and Steve. Thank you.
I want to thank Alice and for getting this together. I just couldn't even imagine doing this, and I know it's, you know, it's for all of you as friends. And I thank Michael for doing what, you know, for starting it off and getting it together. And thanks so much, Robert, for the beautiful pictures. And thank you all for coming out. And we all love Jack very much. Thanks.
I knew Jack before I met him. It happened that one summer I wasn't here all summer, and my way to keep in touch with my true home, which is Barra in this area, was to check Tom's app, see what's happening. And his pictures were often posted, and the thing that was most dear to me was a slideshow he put together, which embodied the rainy season here. And a lot of people who live here part-time don't get it. And to me, it was just it expressed everything about this place. The place that I love to be in the summer and I hate to be in the summer. But so through his work, I could appreciate it all. And at that time, I thought, you know, this is a guy I'd really like to meet. I don't know this Jack Brock. And a dear friend of mine was good friends. My friend Dee Dee is always talking about Jack. She and Jack had lunch. They bicycle ride together and so forth. And I said to Dee Dee once, you know, I really would like to I hang out with girlfriends all the time. I'd like to have a guy in my life, a friend, you know? And it just kind of never happened. I met him, we had dinner with a group of people, etc. And then, lo and behold, in December sometime, towards the beginning of December this year, he posted, he was a friend on Facebook, and he made a post that reaching out to look for somebody who might want to take tango lessons. And his deal was, you drive, I buy you a really nice dinner. And you know, that was appealing, but it was such a huge commitment. Like the lessons were 3 times a week, and okay, maybe we could just go once or twice. And I knew that I could not learn tango by going 1 time a week and then skipping 2 and so forth. And I wrote to him and I said, you know, I have an interest, but it's kind of a big commitment. And he wrote back and said, no, don't worry. It's, you know, if we like it, we like it. If not, you know, it's no big deal. So we went, and we really were hooked together. And it became a huge part of both of our lives. And he learned tango with such passion. and we were very serious students. We had an absolute ball. Every time we came out of class, we both look at each other and say, "Can you believe it? Can you believe what fun we just had?" We were so grateful for the opportunity to study together. And more than anything, we were grateful to be with somebody who was enjoying the same thing just as much. It was a really incredible experience for me. We became very close friends. We saw each other 4 or 5 nights a week. I mean, we took lessons, we practiced, we went to dances and so forth. And I had lots of plans. We were going to continue to do that, and he will be sorely missed. But over the 3 months that we spent together, lots of time together, I learned a lot about him, and the one thing I knew is that definitely he lived life to the fullest. He didn't waste any time doing nothing, and I think he's an inspiration to all of us. Our tango teachers, of course, I had to notify them about Jack's death, and it was very, very difficult for me. We were very close because we were their only students, and so it became a very tight relationship. And this coming April 10th on Sunday, they're holding a milanga in BC, and it's dedicated to Jack. So Jack will, I'm sure he'll be tangoing with the whole group, and so it was really my privilege to know him, and thank you.
Oh, no, I got this one
I recently heard a story about a fellow who died in North Carolina. At the funeral, the pastor went around asking family members if they'd say a few good words about the deceased, and everybody turned him down, because it turns out the guy was quite a nasty piece of work. But one of the nephews said, "I'll go ahead and do it." So at the appointed time, the nephew stands up, goes to the podium, looks around at the congregation, and says, "My uncle was one mean man, but some days weren't as bad as the t'other." And then he sat down. Now I'm going to promise you 2 things. One, no one would ever give an obituary about Jack Brock like that. And number 2 promise is I'm not going to be as brief as the nephew was. So it's a bit ironic that I'm standing up here, because frankly I thought Jack would be up here talking about me. And let me explain that. About 2 months ago, Jack and I had dinner together, and we always had discussions that we truly loved having. In this case, the resolution before the house was resolved. This house believes that a man should live his life as if he were living his own obituary. Now, you know that sentiment because you often hear it at funerals, that if you want to be remembered well, you should live your life like the way we talk about the deceased. Well, Jack and I disagreed with that. And we disagreed because we believe it's important for a man to live a moral life and a just life, but we don't live our lives for other people simply to be remembered. We choose to live the life that we want to live. There's something that comes along with that, and that is, at times like this, if you believe that, then the warts come along with the accomplishments. Now, Jack was very accomplished, and we've heard about that here today. He was a joy to know. He had a great smile. He lived life to the fullest. But as both Phyllis and Alice pointed out, he also had his faults. He could be critical when a little grace would have sufficed. He could have been patient and not get frustrated about things that he couldn't change. And he could have looked at some failures with a little glimmer of hope. But you know what that says is, Jack was a human being, just like the rest of us. And that's what we liked about him. He was a real guy. A philosopher once said that people come into our lives, and those people, when they come into our lives, we allow them to, will teach us something. And in the process, while we're learning, they learn from us. Now, I don't know how true that is, but I do know that between Jack and me, there was a good deal of truth in that. Because knowing him has changed my life for good. And because he was my friend, it has changed it for the better. And I know that everybody here in this audience could probably say something similar. So Jack, if you could rise, please. We raise these glasses to you in honor of a life well lived. Thanks for leaving your handprint on our heart. Thank you, Jack. To Jack.
That concludes the formal part of the celebration of life here. There's going to be food at the back and a reception. And I thank everybody again for attending, and I hope it was as meaningful for you as it was for us. So again, thank you very much.
They don't have the Apple ID password.